How many Wordle players do we have? Yeah, there are still plenty out there. Everyone knows it. Most of us have enjoyed it. Some of us have hated ourselves for it. But we're going to get a lesson now on how to build your own version of it with an intro to low code. So if anybody could please give a big round of applause for Karen.
Lots of things to hold. Lovely. Okay. Hello. Oh, lovely. This is very strange hearing my own voice from up there. It's a first time experience. So, okay, hello. I'm Karen. Nice to meet you all. So I'm a Power Platform specialist, and I've been using the Power Platform for around 7 years now. It's what I've used since my placement year from university. And the Power Platform is a Microsoft suite of low-code tools. So it's a great tool, and I wanted to share about it today, just because in the tech industry today, it feels like there's such a broad range of skills and knowledge, stacks, all these different things you can do. And it can be a bit intimidating to get started with. And low code for me is just a really great entryway into that, whether you're technical or you're more kind of a business side person. It allows you to apply your skills and kind of learn a little bit of everything. So, Office Hackathon. So back in January, on a Friday evening, we had an Office Hackathon at Cranmore. And the brief was relatively open. We can build pretty much anything we want. It doesn't have to be work related, but something for the office might be kind of fun as a theme. So that's kind of what we went with. And I was brainstorming ideas of what to make, and Wordle was the answer for it. And I was thinking about how do we implement this? How do we make this idea into a reality? And the thing is, at Cranmore, where I work, we have a great team of developers. And they're great all-rounders, front end and back end. And they can do pretty much everything. And they can speak with customers, do demo comfortably and everything. And on the other hand, I'm a specialist. So low code and Power Platform is kind of my comfort zone. So I thought, let's do a little experiment on that night. What would a low code project look like in comparison to a pro code project? What can we do in 5 hours? Does it kind of level up with each other? What does it look like? So I just wanted to find out for my own curiosity. And this is what we ended up with. So we have our front screen, a landing page. You can sign into the website, so it's meant for our own office only, so it's private. And then we keep track of our scores on the leaderboard, and you get your familiar Wordle interface. And if you look too closely, you'll see like some of the keyboard elements don't line up, but it's a hackathon, So I chose Wordle for our example today as an introduction to low code. Partially because it's already built back in January, it's recent, but I did rebuild it again for the demo today. But this project was a perfect example of the components that we typically use on the Power Platform, and we apply them to real world projects in the same way. So this is our agenda for today, pretty straightforward. And just a disclaimer, this is not a sales pitch on Microsoft or Power Platform. There's licensing costs associated with it, all that. But to try it out, it is for free. And this is not a low-code takeover like AI. Low-code is kind of a trend in part of the industry, but it's not the be-all, end-all solution to software development. There's a place for everything. So we'll get stuck in. So what is low code? So low code for me describes 2 things, the tool itself and the approach. So for our projects, low code kind of gives business users the perfect middle option between your standard generic off-the-shelf products where you sign up, you pay for your subscriptions, licenses, or buy it perpetually, and then you have your full bespoke custom applications built by developers. So low code gives you something that's perfect in the middle. It allows you to spin up applications, websites using zero code. You don't need to have programming skills necessarily, but a background always helps. But it also gives you that option for developers to extend it using code as well. So that's why it's called low code. There are also no code products out there as well. So this also means that low code applications can be built much faster than traditional full code projects. And we can also involve our business users collaboratively throughout the process. And low code typically gives you kind of a select, drag and drop onto a canvas kind of interface. So you can build websites, apps, or even automate processes using something similar to like PowerPoint slides. You drag and drop things on the screen. It is exactly what you see. We call them WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get interfaces. And abstraction as a concept has already given us lots of programming languages, especially the modern ones like Python that we get today. And low code is kind of another extra layer on top of that. And a lot of popular platforms that we use today, like Jira mentioned, a project management tool. We have Notion, which is a note-taking and productivity app. Platforms like these already have low-code automation built into the product. A lot of times, if you're paying for it, sometimes they even have it as a free feature. It already exists for a long time. And so more abstraction gives you lower complexity. And lower complexity means it's a lot easier to learn, and it's great as a learning tool for education as well. So has anyone used Scratch before? Oh, lots of hands. Yay. Okay, perfect. So Scratch is a visual programming language and platform. So for me, it feels more code than low code. It's like a medium level, somewhere in between. And I used this back when I was in school for an IT project and made a Space Invaders type game. You have things flying down from the top, and then you move your character side to side to try to avoid it. And that was really fun, and it was how I got into the tech industry. And funny enough, I've continued not writing that much code since then. And we also have Google's Coding for Carrots. I thought that was a really cute game. And it was released back in 2017 to celebrate 50 years of children's programming languages like Scratch. And apparently Python is also a children's programming language. I will say no more on that. So low code is a great tool. It's great for learning. It's easy to pick up, and they market it as a tool for citizen developers, so anyone can kind of get their hands on it. And for me, low code as an approach is really important. So while it allows developers to tailor your applications and extend it as well for complex business needs, it just gives us a lot of options without ever changing the code for the end users. So we're thinking more about the long term, what happens after we go live, how do the end users maintain and use that product. So the balance between configuration and customization is what I refer to as the approach for low code. To give you an example, Minecraft, it has a very extensive settings menu, and this is just a home screen. You click into it, there's more settings, and that gives you a lot of control over the behavior of your game, your gaming experience. If I get motion sickness, I can kind of control the zoom of your game, and you're not editing any code. You don't have to type in any values. You don't need to have any programming experience, but it gives you as the end user a lot of control. And in Minecraft, you can also install modifiers, mods. So either you or someone else can build a modifier that changes how your game looks. You can make it blocky, you can keep it as blocky, or you can make it a really realistic or pretty looking interface. And you can also change how the game mechanics work. if you know a bit of code, you can also use their text commands to kind of cheat the game a little bit. You can teleport from one place to another. This customization is a bit more complex than your configurations. It requires more time, more knowledge and skills, but you can achieve a lot more things with it. So that's kind of how low-code projects work with us. Low-code is not just developing with as little code as possible. It's not fearing and running away from the programming, but it is an approach to ensure any maintenance, updates, and enhancements to your solution can be carried out partially by users. We go through the configuration first option so that we give our users their extensive settings menu so that they can kind of tailor their experience without using code. And then as a second option, then they can get developers to update their customizations. As the kind of creators of low-code apps, we try to make our customizations, the code, as future-proof as possible so that it's always configuration first and then customizations after. I'm just gonna take a sip of water. Okay, so now we're off to the fun part. We'll plan and then build and hopefully test our Wordle. So I've made another one for today, just for all the examples to show you. And this will give you hopefully a kind of taster menu experience of the Power Platform and make you want to find out more about it. So first step, plan. In any project using the Power Platform, and I'm sure for software projects, planning is about 80% of your design right away. And then the rest of the 20% is kind of the enhancements, refinements that you build in as you go through, in Agile, we go through sprints, we refine the user needs, and then we kind of tailor the product then. For me, putting pen on paper is kind of my preferred way to do things. So this was my brainstorming process. I was thinking about something fun, something interactive, something with a kind of social element in it for the office. And I was also conscious of the time we had for the hackathon. So we had 5 hours. So I wanted something where you can build as a minimal viable product and then add on top of it after. Once I decided on Wordle, then the first step to any project on the Power Platform is to define your database. So we need to draw out the data schema. We have an entity relationship diagram, just a really simple one at the bottom. So at the top, we have the words, so like a dictionary of 5-letter words in the database. Then we want to have a table that stores the word for each day. So we'll pick out a random word every day. And then we have a table of players so that I can keep track of who played and when. Are they keeping up a streak? Are they making good guesses? And then we have a table of their games. So we keep track of how many guesses they made per game. And then we have a table of guesses as well, so we can work out the results. And it also gives me a sneak peek at like what everyone's guessing as well during the game, so it's quite fun. And then as the last step, just draw a simple process at the top, and then low fidelity is the professional term for it, but it's just a wee scribble of the pages I want to have on the website, your homepage, Wordle leaderboard, and then there's a built-in sign-in page using the Power Platform, so that's pretty handy. So I'm going to start playing a few video recordings of the process just to show you what it looks like. It's not a tutorial, so don't worry about things flying too fast on the screen. It's just to give you a rough idea. Okay, so to get started with, we're setting up a developer environment. So this is completely free for any organizations that use Microsoft to set up. So it gives you a limited capacity of the database, and then I can kind of play around, make proof of concepts with it. And this video speeded up around like 3 times-ish, and instantly pretty much the environment is ready. So that's your database already spun up. And in any Power Platform database, it's typically called Dataverse. It's like a cool name for marketing, I suppose. but you get a pre-built data model, so you already have players or contacts table to store information about individuals. It gives you tables in your database to store commonly used things, so like your contacts, their organizations. You can have cases for case management, and much more. So in here we have our Women Techmaker games environment, our dedicated database. And then what I'm doing here is set up a solution called Women Techmaker Games 2026. And a solution, I like to refer to it like a cardboard box. So any changes, so customizations and configurations, you put it all into this box. And then once you're ready for production, you kind of pack up the box, tape it up, and then you ship it to production, which is another environment or database. And then once you ship it, that applies all your changes from the cardboard box, and then that's you got done for go live. So in here, I was starting to create some tables. So you can see there's no code in sight, but it gives you this drag and drop canvas interface. So there's a kind of tree menu on the left. You have your canvas in the middle. And I think I was trying to show like you can zoom in and out and it's all like responsive interface. So this allows me to build forms for reading and editing data and views for querying data. So you can apply sorting and filtering onto your queries. So this is used words, so words I haven't used yet, and then a query for words that I have used previously. So I can use that to filter when picking a new word for every day, so we're not repeating words. Okay, so in here we're just gonna rinse and repeat, add more tables. So we're adding the daily word. You can kind of define all your table columns, your data types. You can set them as required or optional. And you'll see flashes of red because it's a new environment and I was setting up the website in the background. So the background processes are kind of like showing up as little red errors, but it's nothing of concern at all. And in here, we're creating a new Power App. So this is a type of Power App called model-driven apps. And this is where we're more concerned about the model, the data model, and we're not as concerned about building that bespoke user experience, bespoke interface. We're more focusing on how I want the user to interact with their data. So once I hit publish, that's the app running. So anyone with that URL and with permissions to access this app will be able to do this in the browser. So they can click on that link and go to this app. They can see all the game data. They can see what words have been used, what game sessions happened previously. And what I wanted to do here was to kind of stimulate what would happen with the data as we play Wordle. So we set up just a test word called guess. And we set it for the word as of the day. And I created a new game session for me as a player, Karen. And then if I make a guess, my favorite starting word is beans. It's not efficient at all, but I think it's just funny. And then I just put in letters to represent the result of the guess. And once I made a guess, then we want to increment the number of guesses of my game session. So that means if I leave the game and come back again, I can continue using that game data. And then once I'm done, I wanted to also apply a bit of branding. It is an internal app, so Power Apps are for typically internal users, so like someone in the back office, processing data, application forms, etc. We just want to apply a bit of branding. So I went to the Women Techmakers website, picked out a few colors, stuck it in an XML file, and then added it to our settings. And I also downloaded some Fluent icons to match the Power Platform's system icons, and then apply it to each table. So again, it's a glorified settings menu when you think about it. You're just clicking here, clicking here, clicking here, clicking here. Once you're happy enough, publish all, refresh. That applies your color at the top, and then you get your wee icons on the left. Oh yeah, I added this on afterwards in hindsight, but I was adding the logo as well for the Women Techmakers logo on the top left. And I don't know why Microsoft hasn't updated this, but it takes you to the legacy classic interface. It doesn't look as pretty, but same thing, publish, and you get your icon. So that's the kind of model-driven app, the internal side. So that could be like our Women Techmakers committee and volunteers managing the game, looking through game data, and maybe for International Women's Day, they might want to override the random words and set a custom one to celebrate International Women's Day. I don't know. So the next one for this video, we're moving on to the front end, the website. So I set up the website earlier, and all you have to do is enter the name of your website and the URL, and that spins it up for you and runs in the background. So now I'm coming in and using the same kind of CMS style. What you see is what you get interface. So put in a bit of text, some buttons, and some styling for our website. So again, you don't necessarily need to have coding experience. You don't need to know HTML and JavaScript or CSS. All of that can be done using this interface. And this really allows us to kind of spin up something quickly, and very often allows us to put something in front of the users so that they can kind of see what it looks like at a high level, and then they can kind of tell us what they want or don't want. Because a lot of times you don't know what you don't know, and it can be hard for users to tell us exactly what they want without seeing something in front of them. So in here, I've added two pages, Play Wordle and the leaderboard, put in just some placeholder content, and then you can add in some styling as well. So again, I was just flicking back and forth through the Techmakers website to pick out some colors. So again, once you sync the website, that's our URL at the top, Women Techmaker Games. Power Apps Portals, you can have a custom domain if you want, but that's the generic one. So it allows me to sign in as a user, so that's built-in authentication using the Microsoft Entra ID, so like my work email, for example. And you can also integrate this with other identity providers. I can log in with Google if I wanted to create a user account. And once the website is kind of the base of it is set up, I started adding a few more configuration settings in here. So I wanted to set up table permissions. So both in Dataverse, internally in our internal app, and for the external facing website, you can set up security permissions for who can access what data. So best practice is always only give them access to what they need. So for this, I am setting the user scope to only be able to read and write to their own game and game session, and only read and write their own guesses. And then they will have read-only access to our word of the day. So it's relatively straightforward, but can get messy very quickly if you don't know what you're doing. And then I added some site settings to enable the Power Pages web API. So that's, again, built in. I'm not building anything custom. It's all plug and play. So Power Pages can automatically just connect to your Dataverse. So what I'm doing here is enable the web API for the tables I want to use, and then you can enable it specifically for the columns that you want the website to have access to. So you can enable all of it or just subset of it. So once I've done that, I'm ready to go to the website and add a bit of infrastructure so I can fetch data and update data to make sure that works before I add on the pretty stuff, the game interface and everything. So I wanted to test out the data so we can kind of see what it looks like. So what we're going to do is fetch the word for the day, and we're going to get the user's game session, and we're also going to allow the users to click on a button and make a guess, and then hopefully fetch the results from that as well. And in here, I was just showing an example of how you can quickly jump from the low-code interface into Visual Studio Code, where you can directly edit the HTML. So all the developers in the room can kind of take a deep breath. It's fine. It's fine. So I went in and took out the little low-code spacer under the button and replaced it with a Bootstrap class. So things like that can allow you to very quickly just tidy up the code a little bit. Microsoft does give you some AI tools. They put Copilot everywhere. This is a preview of the Copilot for Power Pages, so it's specific for generating code for your website. So low code is one of the tools you can use, and now they're adding Copilot as the next tool to help you, to help citizen developers kind of add to their product. And I was testing this and kind of reading through the code, it looked right at the start, but then I realized some of the syntax was wrong. So things like setting today's date as the variable, it had like the %y, %m, and %d. That was the wrong syntax for the date. Makes me sad. But yeah, so Power Pages, and we have Power Apps, and we have Dataverse. So we're kind of tying all that together. And I'm just going to skip this to the next. So what we're going to do is quickly aim for this, be able to pull out everything. I'll just throw up screenshots of what I did. So we're going to query and fetch the data. So here we have a liquid template on the screen. So the curly brackets, that's all liquid. It's a templating language made by Shopify. And that allows us to use server-side logic to fetch data from Dataverse. So the curly brackets %sign is the flow control and logic. And then when you see the double curly brackets, that's where Liquid will render HTML or text and values into your HTML for the page. And the previous example had this one, fetch XML query in here for us to fetch data, but we can also use a Dataverse view. So that allows us to refer to the low code interface where users create a view using low code and reference that in here. So if users ever want to change a query on your website, they don't have to come into the code. And once we have done that, we want to update our data. So when you submit a guest, we want to push data back into Dataverse. And we do that through the web API. So once we have enabled that in the permissions, you can call the web API, and the syntax is relatively simple. All you have to do is give it your table name, which table I want to update, and what data I want to push into it. And you can also fetch data using web API, so that gives you 3 options for fetching data on the website. So again, give your table name, the system unique ID, and then what columns you want to fetch back. And this gives you the kind of query version. So instead of fetching one specific row in your table, you can query multiple rows as well. So you can apply sorting and filter. And then here's some JavaScript to validate the word, make sure it's there, make sure it's 5 letters. And then once we're happy enough, we submit the guess. So this is a quick video to show it fetching the data and then submitting it. The result is just hard-coded static value so far. And then that's my game session in the internal app. So that's all the data submitted. And if I change the date of my session to a previous day and reload again, it'll say, oh, haven't found a game session, let's create a new one. And this is the Power Automate. I'm going to skip that for the sake of time. But it allows us to use kind of like a living flowchart style, drag and drop things into a flowchart to create an automated process. So we use this to generate a random word for every day. So you always start with a trigger and your actions. And finally, with the Cranmore Office Wordle, we have some pretty happy users. Cranmore crew might say otherwise, but looking at the leaderboard, I think it looks pretty good. And I want to give shout out to Connor for being our top leader on the current streak. He's a loyal visitor of the Cranmore Wordle page. Yeah. So, maybe we'll just put up the Wordle game to end. Thanks, Janine. Oh, lovely. Yeah, yes, please. Okay, so shout for any word to start. It'll just take a moment to load. Perfect. Alter. Okay. Let's hope that works. Should we just press? Yeah. Okay, we've got letter E, so it's green. It's in the right spot. Enter. Okay. Okay, now we have the letter N. It's not in the right spot, but it's part of the word. Very on theme. Is it? Can you put it in? Ding, 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 ding. Thank you very much. If we jump back to the slides, I'll just flash these on the screen then. Thank you. All right, so what's next? Get stuck in, really. I have examples on the slide, but we're going to flash through that, and you can find it once we share all the slides afterwards. And can't have a presentation without a quote. So it is never the tool that decides, it's the hands and the heart of the one who wields it. So low-code development is all about developing with the user in mind and for the long term as well. So as the user needs evolve, we want the technology to evolve with them. And it is our job to kind of support that in the best way possible. And today I showed you some of the Power Platform. It is only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. I'm 7 years in, I'm still learning loads of stuff every day. So I did say this is definitely not a sales pitch on Power Platform and Microsoft. You can do this for free, you're not giving them money. But instead, I want to challenge all of you to find the low code, the extensive glorified settings menu in the tools that you use every day. Try out some automation, try out different settings, and just maximize the tools you already have, because very often it's already there for you. So give it a go. But yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Karen. Because I talked too much at the start, I'm going to skip Q&A so that we can get to the break. But thank you very much. If you do have questions, I'm just going to say go chat to Karen outside. Whether I was going to jokingly say whether she wants it or not. That's a really inappropriate thing to say. She did say she was good with Q&A, but timing-wise, I'm just going to keep us moving along.